In this video, for today's assignment, you are going to be doing tying it all together on parallel and perpendicular lines, which is what you learned on Thursday and Friday. So, very first thing, let's go ahead and take a look over at number 1. Number 1 says, what is the equation of the line parallel to y equals 2x plus 7 and contains the point negative 5, 1? So guys, very important that you always make sure that your equation is solved for y. And then your first goal is to find your slope. Now, remember, when it comes to parallel lines, that means that your slope stays the same. You have the same slope. So here, the slope of my given equation is 2. So the equation of my new line should also be 2 because it has to be parallel. Now, it also has to go through the point negative 5, 1. Now, because I've been given my slope and provided with a point, remember, the method or form that I'm going to have to start off using is point-slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, from here, you want to go ahead and label your point x1, y1, and then go ahead and plug in all of your information into your formula. So we have y minus y1, which is equal to 1. This equals our slope, which is 2, parentheses x minus x1, which is negative 5. Now here we end up having a double negative. 2 negatives, remember, means that I have to add. So from here, I want to solve for y. So solving for y, remember, that means my first step is to distribute. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 5 is 10. Next step, again, I'm solving for y, but I have 1 being subtracted from y. Again, my goal is to isolate y, so I want to do the inverse of that, and I want to add 1 to the other side. Now, remember, you're just adding it to the constant. You're not going to add it to the x because 1 does not have a variable, so it goes with the 10. From here, I have y equals 2x, and 10 plus 1 is 11. So here my answer is C. Now, going through the rest of your problems, please make sure that you are solving for y. So I will go ahead and solve each of these, or not each of them, but I will solve number 2 and 4 for y just as a refresher on how to do that. So number 2 is in standard form, and remember, in order to convert your equation from standard form to slope-intercept form, there are 2 steps. Your first step is to move x. So right now, x is positive. So to move it over, I have to subtract x over to the other side. And I end up with 2y equals negative x plus 10. My next step is to divide by the number in front of y. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. And I end up with y equals, remember there's a 1 in front of x, so here I get negative 1 over 2x, and then 10 over 2 is 5. So from here, you should be able to mimic the steps on number 1 to find the equation of your line. Number 4 is in slope-intercept form. So remember, whenever you are in slope-intercept form, your first step is to distribute. So we have y plus 1 equals 5 times x, which is 5x, and 5 times negative 2, which is negative 10. Last step is to subtract over the 1, and here my equation ends up being y equals 5x minus 11. So you want to also go ahead and solve number 6 for y before you go ahead and start the process of identifying your slope and plugging your point into point-slope form. So we're going to move on to perpendicular lines. So remember, perpendicular lines, this means that you have to find the opposite reciprocal. Their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. Remember, an opposite reciprocal means that you're taking your slope and you're flipping your fraction and changing your sign. So for instance, on number 7, it says, what is the equation of the line perpendicular to y equals negative 2x plus 3 and contains the point 8, 1? So our first step is to find our slope. So the slope of my given equation is negative 2. But remember, I am trying to find the equation of a line perpendicular to y equals negative 2x plus 3. So I have to find the opposite reciprocal of my given slope. So my very first step is to find the opposite reciprocal of negative 2. And in order to do that, I know that in order to find a reciprocal, my slope has to be a fraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put negative 2 over 1. I'm going to flip my fraction, so I get negative 1 over 2, and I'm going to change my sign from negative to positive. So here, my slope ends up being 1 over 2. So again, finding your opposite reciprocal means that I'm flipping my fraction and changing my sign. So here, we started off with a negative slope, and now you're going to end up having a positive slope. So I've been given a slope and a point. I'm going to label my point as x1, y1. And I'm going to go ahead and plug this into my formula. y1 equals m times x minus x1. And I'm going to plug in my information. So I have y minus 1 equals my slope, which is 1/2, parentheses x minus x1, which is 8. So again, now our next goal is to distribute. So I'm dropping down y minus 1 equals 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. And 1/2 times negative 8 gives us negative 4. Next step, again, I'm isolating y, so I want to add 1 over to the other side, and I end up with y equals 1/2 x minus 3. So here my answer ends up being B. So again, on the rest of your problems, remember number 8, you're going to have to convert into slope-intercept. So remember that means you're moving x dividing by the number in front of y. Number 9 is in point-slope form. So remember, distribute, and then once you have distributed, move over the constant to isolate y, and then remember to find your opposite reciprocal to find the equation of your line perpendicular to that. Number 10 is already in slope-intercept. Number 11, again, is in standard, so remember to solve for y. So make sure that you have both Thursday and Friday's assignment completed, and then go ahead and finish this one up. See you tomorrow.